friends, Queen of Flannel here. Welcome back to the channel. So today I thought I would do a quick video for you guys and give you 4 different ways that you can shade with your alcohol markers. So this sheet is up on my Ko-fi for free. All you need to do is right click on the image, save it, and print it out on whatever paper you have that you like to use. This was my test sheet when I was working on picking out my colors. My Twitch chat actually helped with some of this the other day, so we will be working off a clean copy of this, and I've already picked out my my markers here, and I'm going to be working with a selection from the Ohuhu 320 Honolulu set. So these are the brush and chisel, and I'm going to show you guys this because I had started working on this earlier in the week using just the swatch cards that come with the markers. And so as much as I really enjoy working with the Ohuhus, their numbering system is, I don't even know what to say. It's weird. So you'll have markers that are in number order, but when you try and work with them, they don't go. So you may have I'm just going to throw random numbers out. This is not how they're actually set up. So like you may have this RP1, which is very like purplish red, and then your RP2 might be like an orange red. And so if you've ever worked with Copics, where their system is a little bit more streamlined, those two colors would be a better blending group, and that's not necessarily how the Ohuhus work. What I did was a little research, and this is a hex chart from Sandy Alnock. She recently released this for the Ohuhu Honolulu 320 set. Even if you have some of the smaller Honolulu sets, you could still get some use out of this. Obviously, there's just going to be gaps. And so I was trying to use the regular charts, and it just was not working for me. And I'm usually pretty good about eyeballing, and for this set of markers, yeah. So I printed this out. It is, I believe, $5.99 over on her website. I will link to it down below, and it helped me immensely in being able to pick out my colors for this project. So I'm actually working with, let me zoom you guys in. So my 3 main colors, I promise we're going to get to the tutorial momentarily, are going to be this YR180 is going to be my my dark, Y10 is going to be my midtone, and then YR170 is going to be my my highlight color, my lightest color. And I will pop these up on the screen there, that way you'll have them throughout the tutorial. And I also went through and picked out a couple other colors that I'm really excited to share this with you guys, because this has been something I've been playing with. So we've got a warm gray 3 and a B110, a light blue, and a mauve color. But I'm going to put those aside for right now and move over to my chart. And so I'm going to swatch this out for you guys, just so you can see how I did this. And I don't know what happened. This printed out fine the other day, and for whatever reason my printer cut it off today, but I'm not going to waste the paper. Let me zoom back out just a little bit. And I am working on Copic Express blending card today. So I gave you guys a few little boxes down here and some blank space to mess around, but I wanted to keep this really simple, so we are primarily going to use a trio to blend with, and this is my dark, and I'm just going to fill out over here on the side a little bit of my dark, and then I'm going to come in with my midtone, which is the Y10, and I'm going to start out over the dark, bring my midtone out. And then I'm going to grab my YR170, which is my light tone. And this is a pretty orange. And again, I'm starting in the middle of my midtone. And so for this, because it's just a swatch, I'm not super worried about going back and blending everything out, but we'll get to that when we actually do our first pumpkin. And so it's just going to be some back and forth of the markers. I'm going to make one more pass here and then we'll get started. I don't want this video to be a million hours. And so it does dry better than it looks right now. All right, so our first pumpkin, I am going to work from light to dark, just using my my 3-color blend here. And so usually when I am working this way, starting light to dark, I tend to prime the whole image with the orange marker. I just find it visually easier to work this way. And I've kind of flip-flopped over time. This used to be pretty much the only way I worked with alcohol markers was light to dark. And there are pros and cons to both these first two methods that I'm going to show you. And now you don't have to prime and do the light color over the whole image. I just find it easier to blend. But it does use a lot of ink. One of the times that I will work this way is I do it a lot with skin tones if I'm doing a portrait, or if it's a subject that I am unsure of, that I've never really colored before, because it is much easier to darken, to add more, than to come in too dark and try and take away. And your blender marker, well, that's a whole other topic. Especially when you're first starting out, I think people get into this like, oh, I can just fix it with my blender marker. And that is not always the case. So this is my midtone, my Y10. And I'm just going to feather this in here. And I want to make sure that I leave some areas where this lighter color is going to show through. And so since we have primed this whole image with the lightest color, it is going to change the tone of the overall color of the image. And when I do the next one, we'll really be able to see that. And so I am working relatively quickly, and this is all just a stylistic choice here, how you leave your highlights. You can keep going and blend this out if you don't like the harsh edges. Perfectly fine. But I'm going to leave it because that has that's kind of become a thing of mine lately, is trying not to overwork. And I am treating this as if, now a pumpkin isn't a reflective source, so you're not really going to get, you know, like a strong highlight on a pumpkin, but its tonal values are going to be impacted by the lighting. So for this one, I'm really just coloring this as if it was in a neutral lighting situation, as if it was being lit straight on. So we're not doing anything super funky with this. We're just coloring a pumpkin. So that's my midtone. And now I'm going to come in with my YR 180, which is my dark. And basically, at this point, I'm just scaling back how far into the pumpkin I bring each color. And it does help if you work relatively quickly. It's easier when your paper is still a little wet. And you can use these techniques on any object. I just picked pumpkins because it's fall, and I know a lot of people are coloring pumpkins. So this is just a really easy try blend. And if you wanted to, you could always come back in with an even darker color, or just keep layering your darkest color out of your tri blend. Completely up to you. And there we go. So that's our first pumpkin, and this was working. Where's my pen? So this was light to dark. So our next one, we're going to flip this and reverse it, as Missy Elliott would say. And we're going to start with our dark color, our YR 180. And we are going to add in where we want our shadow colors to be. And again, I am just treating this as if we're kind of looking at it straight on. And I want to leave some of that outer edge there. And it looks a little choppy, but we'll smooth that out when we go in with our next marker. I actually have found, as I mentioned, that I enjoy working dark to light a little bit better now that I feel a little bit more comfortable with alcohol markers than I do working dark to light instead of light to dark. Going in and adding my my shadow colors and laying out where I want my my darkest areas first and kind of mapping out the image. I feel like visually it just makes it just makes it easier for me to kind of plan where I want things. And so we can already see that since we don't have that that initial layer of our lightest color down on the paper, that our whole pumpkin tonal value is lighter. And so that just might mean that we'll have to go back in with our darkest color and deepen up our shadows. Now, I will also tell you that don't be fooled by thinking that it's going to look exactly like this as soon as you put it down on paper, because it will dry either darker or lighter than when it's wet on the paper. So sometimes you kind of gotta give it a bit to dry before you just go ham with the markers. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my YR170, which is my lightest color. And he's looking a little patchy right now, but that's okay. So I'm going to go back in with my shadow color here, my dark color. And again, same thing, we could also bring in a fourth color if we really wanted to darken this up. And at this point, it just becomes a stylized choice for you to decide how dark you want it. But you definitely use less ink, I find, this way. So if you're working with markers that don't have refills and that you can't replace, and so this is back to my my midtone. And then this is my YR70, my light. And I'm really just trying to smooth out a couple edges. But I also kind of like the rough lines. So yeah, that is our dark to light. And it is a little hard to tell in the rendering on the camera. They are pretty similar, but you can tell this one over here is a little bit darker. So when you're working light to dark and you're priming with that lightest color and using it on the entire, like, basically to underpaint, it does have the potential to wash out some of your darker colors. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. It's just a stylistic choice. And if I was doing this on my own, I would probably go in and add more colors and more layers. But when you're first starting out, I think this is a really good option to learn color theory and color picking and how to select colors that work well together. So either one of these, I would highly recommend if you're new to alcohol markers, and then you kind of work your way up to some of the more advanced techniques. So our next pumpkin that we're going to color, I'm actually going to split this pumpkin in half, theoretically. I find that, and I did this when I first started with alcohol markers, is that we also get into this, well, it's a shadow, so it's gray, so I want to add some shading on my finished image after, I get all of my color down. So I'm going to go in with a gray. or black. But your shadows aren't gray. They may look gray, but there's more than likely going to be some of this color in those dark areas. So what I have found through watching tutorials is that you can still use the gray, but we're going to underpaint with it instead of putting it over the top. And you'll see at the end when I split this and I show you the difference. And we're still going to use all three of these colors. So the thing that you want to make sure that you test when you are underpainting with any color is that it's not too dark, and that it's not going to overpower the rest of your blend. So let me see if I have a darker, actually, you know what? Let me just bring this back up. Okay, so this was my my test sheet from the other day, and I was messing around with blues, and this my YR180, my darkest color, and it was way too dark to underpaint with, even with this dark orange. You barely want to be able to see this this underpainted color through your marker. It's going to be really difficult to blend, and it's going to make your image look muddy and gross. So you want to go for a mid-tone, really. So we're going to test this out, even though I know this works because I did it the other day, but I want you guys to see it. So instead of using this as my first color, my my YR180, I'm going to prime my shadow areas with gray. And I will show you after we do this that you can underpaint with colors other than gray as well, but first we're going to do it this way. So I'm going to go completely over top of the gray. And then I'm going to come in with my midtone. And then my light color. And I know this isn't blended out super well, but look at the difference between the two. So this is just the tri-blend, my orange markers. And this is underpainting with the gray, like just the dynamic that adds to our blend. So I'm going to come in and prime my shadow areas with the gray on half of this pumpkin. And then I'll show you the difference between underpainting with your gray and using it over top of the rest of your image. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do dark to light on the whole pumpkin, just like I did up here, aside from the fact that half of it we used the gray. So this would work well if you really wanted to put like half of your pumpkin in shadow. Like say your lighting was coming from this direction, so this half of your pumpkin was lighter, and this whole area back here had like a cast shadow on it from another object. And I'm going to go in with my Y10. So again, I am trying to work fairly quickly just because I want to keep my paper wet, and I would absolutely go in and blend these out a little bit better. Okay, so we have half our pumpkin that we underpainted with the gray. And now we're going to take the gray and we're going to add the shadows over top, and I'm going to show you guys so you can see what the difference is. And there are certain objects where it might look better to do your grays over the top, depending on what it is that you are coloring. But personally, I think if you're going for a more realistic look, that I would go with the underpainting over here. The other thing that you need to be mindful of when you're using your shadow colors on the top, especially if you're working with lighter grays, is that if there's a lot of the blender fluid in some of these lighter colors, it has the potential to wash your other colors out, and that is what happened yesterday. So it's so this was my test sheet from yesterday, and this could be that I used more of my YR 170, my lighter color, but you can definitely see the difference between underpainting with the gray and over top on this one. And it really bleached out some of the pumpkin around around it where the lighter color was at. I didn't quite get that same effect today, but that's just something to be mindful of. And I feel like this one over here is a lot more dynamic and appealing than this one. And you don't have to use gray to do this underpainting with. So we'll swatch this out, but I'm not going to do an entire pumpkin this way because the technique is the same. So if you have a color wheel, what you can do is find a complementary color to the colors that you're working with. So we're working with orange, and the complementary color to orange is blue. And so I tested a few of these out until I found one that worked well with my oranges. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to use your blue to underpaint or whatever color you're working with. And same rules apply. You want to make sure that this is somewhere in the mid-tone range. If you go too dark, it's going to show through your other colors, be very difficult to blend out, and it's going to make your colors look muddy. And this works. I mean, it works well because it works well and the colors go together. But say you're working with a small set of markers and you didn't have a gray that was light enough to do this with, but you had this really pretty B110 crystal blue, and you can get the same effect. And that's our swatch for that. And if you compare it to the first one, you can definitely see the difference. So our last pumpkin, this is more of a stylistic way to shade, and so I'm throwing this in for funsies. So I'm just gonna do a super quick dark to light color this pumpkin, because we've done this like 3 times. And so I'm going to do my best to leave some of these edges open. And I'm going a little farther out with the with my dark here. And my midtone. Okay. So then I am going to very carefully go in with this Violet 030, which is mauve. Just along the edges. And so I want to be careful that I'm not like scrubbing this into the rest of the pumpkin, because I don't actually want to blend this. I don't want the orange to or the purple to like seep into the orange. And if I scrub at it, then that's what's going to happen. And I do this a lot with light purples and violets when I'm doing Caucasian skin tones. Again, this is a stylized choice. And I guess not so much a shadowing technique, but I think it looks cool, and I wanted to share it with you guys. And there we go. So let me label this real quick. So dark to light, gray under, gray over, and purple. So let me see if I can get that. There we go. We can kind of see it. I just really like the way that looks. Just different. So that is it. So that is 4 different ways that you can add some shadows and dimension to your coloring pages when working with alcohol markers. We worked light to dark, dark to light. We underpainted with gray. We did gray over top, and then we did this funky purple at the end. So again, this little tester sheet is over on my Ko-fi. Feel free, print it out, use it to your heart's content. And yeah, I had a lot of fun putting this together for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave me a comment. Let me know if there's any other alcohol marker tutorials that you're interested in seeing, and I'll do my best to try and compile a list of things that you guys are interested in. And yeah, so I appreciate all of your support. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified when I post additional content, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much.